Welcome to episode 243. Joining me on today's 3 Book Bloggers 1 Series read-along is Nicola. Casey is out, but she'll be back next month. We're discussing Siege and Storm, the second book in the Grisha Trilogy by Leigh Bardugo. Stay tuned. Today's episode is brought to you by audiobooks.com. New customers get 1 free audiobook when using our promo code AudioShelf. You just need to enter the code AudioShelf on the sign-up page, then click Apply, then fill out the rest of your account info. Support this podcast by using our code AudioShelf and get your first audiobook free. Hey everyone, I'm your host, Tamara Ford, and welcome to Book Chat here on the Shelf Addiction Podcast. Join us in this book discussion by finding me on Twitter, as well as my book blogger co-host. Tweet at us using our special hashtag 3bloggers1series. That's using the numeric 3 and 1. Again, it's hashtag 3bloggers1series. If Twitter isn't your thing, no worries. You can join the Facebook group, Shelf Addiction Official, and talk about this series with us there. I hope to hear your thoughts on this book discussion. The links for everything I've mentioned are below in the show notes. Before we jump into this chat, I have a quick note. I want you to get the full enjoyment out of this conversation, so I recommend that you read the book first. This is a book discussion, so of course, spoiler alert. You've been warned. Welcome back, everyone. As I mentioned in the intro, we are doing a new book. This is the second book in a trilogy. Today, we are talking about Siege and Storm by Leigh Bardugo. And joining me is my read-along co-host, Nicola. We're missing one today. She's sick, but she'll be back next time. Yeah. Get well, Casey. We'll see you next time. But Nicola is here, and we are going to rock this. Nicola, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, I'm Nicola Onichuk. I blog at alphaheroes.net, and I'm mainly a romance and urban fantasy person, but I'm trying on some young adult stuff here with Casey and Tamara this time around, and it's going pretty well, I gotta say.
Yes, and also you guys, as you know, this is our first read along that is also a young adult, in our series. So if you want more young adult, or if you are like, nah, I'm not feeling a young adult, let us know. So I don't want to force you to listen to us talk about this if you hate it, or if you want more, we want to know that too.
Yeah, I think I'm going to jump right in here, but I think that if you like urban fantasy, it's a pretty blurry line here between young adult and urban fantasy. So I would say that it doesn't come off as being super teenagery in
No.
this particular series anyway.
Which was by design, because remember when we were looking, you were like, I don't want to hear about proms and crap, and so we purposefully set out for something that was more, intense in the fantasy and less like relationship driven. Although there's a lot of relationship stuff in here, it just doesn't feel that bad,
Yeah, I think, that when I think back on the sci-fi that I used to read when I was a teenager, it's not that different from this. And I never thought of it as being young adult. That was not a genre until recently. And so I think if you like traditional fantasy, that's frequently features, young people, because that's the time you go out and start having adventures, So no issues there. I just, so there's some stuff about modern young adult contemporary books that's just really not very interesting to me personally. So
yeah, totally. And honestly, I feel like a lot of the quote unquote YA fantasy novels, this one I think I'm on the cusp of. I'm still okay with calling it YA, but so much of it, I don't think it should be called YA, and that's a whole nother conversation. We start getting into some of the violence, some of the sex and stuff that does happen in these other books. I think it's you shouldn't call it YA anymore, and it's just like a marketing stunt at that point. But that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, I'm really not the expert on where that dividing line is, and I think that's agreed, that's a big conversation, right?
Yeah.
Because, what's the age group for a young adult? 14? Is that sort of the bottom? I mean, when I was 14, I was reading Judith Krantz and books with a lot of violence and a lot of sex. And
oh my gosh.
You
Yeah.
know, whether that's resulted in a warped person or an okay person is up for debate, I suppose. But
Look, I'm not the one to judge. I was reading V.C. Andrews in like the 6th grade, and we know she's all about incest, right? She
oh
cannot
my
write a
god,
book
that
without
book was so
incest. So,
creepy. You know that
yes.
made 100 best American novels book list recently. I was just like, are you kidding me?
Wow.
Oh.
It's trash. It's trash, but I was reading it and I liked it when I was reading it because it was dramatic. And I love the
Yes,
drama,
yes, and the locked in the attic and the mean
hmm
mother and oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, she also loved the trope where, is that my brother? No, it's not. Let me sleep with him. Oh crap, that is my brother.
They were twins. How
No, I mean, the other books too. There's this other series, the Cutler series. Oh my gosh, she had these, it was like this love triangle. The guy she was dating turned out to be her brother, and then her brother turned out to not be her brother, and then she
Oh
ended up like
no.
switching partners. It was a whole hot mess.
I guess I missed that one.
Yeah, if anyone's read that, let me know. I think it started with Dawn. I mean, that actually seared into my memory because I was like, oh my God, what the heck is going on in this book right now? But yeah,
Yeah.
fun stuff.
Okay.
Anyway, back to the topic at hand.
Let's back to the topic. Thank you,
Yes,
Tamara.
yes, of course. Because, we'll get off on a tangent and we'll be like off in somewhere else, left field. But okay, so what do you want to start with this? What do you think?
Um, let's see. If I think back to the beginning. So, um, what's the biggest difference between this book and the first book? I guess they're just kind of always on the run from the Darkling, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's just this sort of all-powerful, distant presence. So, but he's not in the book very much. He's kind of in the background. I guess at the very beginning he is.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, the thing to start with. What do we start with? I don't know. I guess killing
Well,
the sea monster.
yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, when she got the scales or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And it
Mm-hmm.
took her a while to decide whether she wanted to take it on as an amplifier or not.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes she's kind of just, I think that's my biggest problem with Alina is she is very childlike when it comes to like making hard choices. And I think, and I understand you don't want to kill things, you don't want to be that, but okay, you're up against someone who's very powerful, and you got to think about this in like a logical way. And if you don't kill it, someone else will, and then they will have control of the power, right? That is why you have to kill it. Throughout this whole series so far, she kind of has that, I don't want to, but I'm glad she did kill it. I'm glad she did.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's a story about power and if how do you acquire the power and what do you do with it and does it corrupt and can a good person hold power without becoming corrupted? Um, so I think that's an interesting theme and I like it and I like how it's not black and white for Alina. Because she does have some experiences with the darker side of the power that she does have. But the killing and the not killing, I think that's going to be. I'm making some predictions now about book 3. I think that's going to be a thing in book 3. I really, if you think about the way the stag hunt went,
Mm-hmm.
um, the fact that she spared its life gave her power. Um, the fact that the Darkling took its life gave him power, but I think there's a push pull there that we're going to see more of in book 3. I think I'm assuming they're going to find the Firebird or something that is an allegory for the Firebird, and that she won't kill it. That's my prediction. I haven't read it. I haven't even read the synopses yet, but I think she's going to choose not to, and it's going to still give her power. That's what I think.
Yeah, I could see her doing that probably just because she feels so conflicted. And I feel like, Mal is not helping in that arena. He's really making her feel bad about some of the choices she's made.
Mm-hmm.
So now she's really, she wants to sacrifice herself,
Yeah.
so she
Yeah.
was willing to take herself out, not to have to deal with this anymore, and to,
Right.
kind of free her friends of it. But now that she is forced to deal with it some more, I kind of agree with you. I think she's going to try to, the whole time I do think she's
Yeah.
going to try to actually kill the Darkling. I think she will try again, but she probably won't wear the final amplifier, not in the
Yeah,
way that she wears the first two.
let's skip ahead to almost the end of this book, and when they were escaping from the battle, and Mal grabs her around her free wrist, and like something happens. Like I think
Mm-hmm.
that's a huge foretelling, forething for the last book.
Foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank
Yes.
you. I think
You're
it's a
welcome.
huge foreshadowing for the last book. I think, and I'm making a lot of guesswork here, but I think that it's going to be love is the allegory for um, the third amplifier, and I think that you know defying all of the power structures and really committing to Mal is going to be the thing that gives her that last boost of power.
Mm. Well,
And
I
maybe
I would
Mal is the
agree with you.
Firebird.
Maybe, maybe, but
Maybe.
I kind of hope not. I feel okay. Let me just talk bad about Mal for a minute. I kind of think he was a petulant child some of the time, and his whining and his jealousy was just a little bit much for me at times. And I feel like I want him to grow a pair and grow up. Like, just because it's not the way you think it should be, that it's wrong.
Yeah,
And that
I
annoys
kind of
me about
agree.
him.
I kind of
Yeah.
agree. I feel like it's part of his arc across the series, and hopefully um, he'll grow into it. I think I'm looking forward to a happy ending with the two of them at the end of the series, or at least a meaningful ending for the two of them. I could see
Hmm.
it being kind of a tragic sacrifice ending. I don't know if that's common in YA or not. I suspect it's not. But
Hmm.
I could. I thought that the scene where Alina was stealing power from the Darkling near the end was really great and really meaningful, I guess. So
Hmm.
I don't know quite what to make of that for the last book. So here I am. I keep wanting to talk about book 3 that we haven't read yet. So rein me in, boss lady.
I do wonder, though, what made her think that it worked for him? Why not try this? Like, what triggered in her brain? Like, because obviously this was impromptu. She wasn't planning this. This wasn't like, oh, I'm going to go off and do this thing. It kind of just happened. And then there she was just taking his powers and stuff. And I'm like, wow, I mean, what was the switch for her that said, oh, I can do this? Or maybe it was an accident and she just kept doing it.
I would have to go back and do a little bit of spot reading here and there, but I think that she felt it a little bit when she first got in the first book, when she got the amplifier collar, and it was because of that power that the stag gave her directly for sparing his life, and she did have some autonomy under his power, if I recall correctly. And so I don't think it came out of nowhere, but it maybe didn't have as much buildup as it could have. Like she could have, but I think you're right, and maybe it's a YA thing that it's very impulsive and just out of desperation. I'm just gonna try this, or I don't know.
I mean, and then I'm glad you mentioned the stag thing, because with that collar, I thought that he could control her powers, but I know that she got some other ability, something from
Hmm.
this, from not killing it.
Right.
But doesn't he still have some kind of say over her powers? Like, I thought he did.
Um, I don't know, because it doesn't seem like he does, really. It seems like he uses blackmail to get her to do what he wants. I mean, if you're going to take her into the fold where she's going to die if she doesn't, throw the light around, then it's she's been manipulated into using it. But I don't know that he actually controls it after that first couple of times. That would be an interesting reread to go back and just read those several scenes.
Mm-hmm. Because it happened really fast, you know?
Yeah, it may be that the world building is a little bit inconsistent. I'd have to, I don't know. I'm not feeling like I'm totally clear on her power and that connection the two of them have.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of feel like, see, the whole time, off and on, she was seeing the Darkling, and that annoyed me to death that she would not say something. Open your mouth and say something. Because, and she's like, oh, I thought I was going crazy. No, girl, no. Okay, because you live in a world where it's magic. He is doing things outside of the realm that he's not supposed to be able to do.
Right,
So why wouldn't you think that this could be possible, that you are seeing him through something he's doing? And
right.
I don't understand that. Like, that's so naive. That's what I was talking about earlier. Like, in some ways, she's so immature and young. I'm like, this dude is doing crazy stuff he's not supposed to be doing, but yet you're going to just brush that off? Like, oh, it must be my imagination? That is the dumbest thing ever. That bothered me so bad.
Yeah, I guess I felt it was pretty consistent with her character. And it would be hard. I mean, if you put yourself in her place, it would be hard to explain. But, and not to mention sort of fear mongering, right? So I could see how a leader might choose not to share that. But yeah, it's a tough choice, and it was a strange. I will say that having him appear like that made the overall book like a lot more tense and creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah. What was his mother's name again? What was her name?
uh,
The old
Starts with a
woman?
B, Bruja, something like that.
Yeah, I thought, honestly, I thought that if there's anyone you could tell to sway your way, because she kind of was like angry at her and didn't want to help her. But I
Hmm.
figured if you go tell her what her son is doing, you might get her to sway to your side and help you. That would be something. But she kind of never fully came back around to trying to get her to help. I think she went one time and was turned away, and she's like, okay. I'm like, what?
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised that that didn't get developed more, but there was a lot going on in the book, so I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I would have liked to see more from the mom, from his mother. For one
Mm-hmm.
thing, this whole book was all about how to kill the Darkling, right? And the whole next book is going to be about how to kill the Darkling. There's no
Yeah.
evidence that he can be killed. He's
No.
centuries old, and he's taken many severe wounds over the last two books, and he survives them all. She needs to go ask the mother, how do I kill this guy? And then we can see the mother, um, what side she's really on, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I just don't know. He's basically immortal as far as we can tell, but everybody assumes he can be killed, so that puzzles me.
Bakra, is that her name? Yeah, Bakra.
Yeah, yeah, that
Yeah,
sounds
she
right.
should know. And I feel like if you give her the right information, the right details, she'll turn. You know, you just can't say, help me. She's going to be like, why?
Yeah, I don't
You have to
know
tell
because
her. And
she is his mother, right? She's not um, a black and white character either. Her her wish was for him to be redeemable. Now that he's not redeemable, I don't know if she cares about anything, right? So a storyline where someone were to convince her to join their side would be really interesting. Um, it's just not in this book.
yeah, I mean, after how he treated his own mother, I mean, I would think that she would be more open to helping, but instead it's the opposite. It's, you
But
know,
she's the a darkling too, kind of, right?
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. So,
Hmm.
so yeah, I felt like that was unrealized potential as well.
Yeah,
Um,
and I liked her character in the first book. I mean, she's a mean old lady, but I liked how what she had to contribute in the first book and how she kind of played into the whole, I'm actually his mother, da da da. I thought that there would be more from her in this book, and I was disappointed not to see it. I mean, there was a lot of, stuff with Nikolai and, of course, Mal being jealous. I mean, there was a lot of that to me, almost too much.
Yeah, I think that plays along with the power, the theme of power, right? Because there's most of them are not talking about loving her. They're talking about you know becoming a greater
Alliances.
power together. Yeah, alliances and
Mm-hmm.
power. So I think Nikolai is an interesting character. I really liked him in this book. I feel like he might be a little bit of a red shirt, but we'll see.
Yeah, do
Uh,
you think he died or do you think he escaped?
oh, I think he escaped. I think if he died, we would have seen that on the page.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know if he escaped in his plane, um, but I think we'll see him in the third book. I just don't know if he'll survive the third book.
I would not be mad if she ended up with him. I don't know. I just feel a way about Mal. I just don't like it. And I feel like there's something more for her because at least Nikolai knows what she is. He's helped her this whole book,
Yeah.
through his little advice. He's trying to motivate her and help her. And yes, in turn, it helps him, but he's not being wholly selfish about it. Uh, in this whole book, Mal's doing the opposite. It's like you're being a pain this whole book, basically. So I would be rooting for her and Nikolai if that could happen, if it could.
Yeah, I wouldn't be mad either. I think I you know I, Mal is there's something about him though. He's not he's that he's got that sixth sense about tracking these mythical creatures. I think there's more to Mal than what we're seeing on the surface, and I think that's going to come out in the third book. But one of
You
them
think he's
is going to
Grisha?
say, yeah. I'm sorry?
You think he's Grisha?
I think he
Like a
might
low
be
level
Grisha or he might be something
thing?
else. I think he
Mm.
might be the Firebird. Um, I could be completely off on that, but I think that either Mal or Nikolai is going to sacrifice themselves for Alina in the end, and she'll be with whoever's left. I don't have a good sense of which one it'll be.
Hmm. I hope it's Mal that just takes the hit for the team and dies, and then she can move on with men that are adults. Uh, and maybe that could be his flame of glory. He could go out like hey,
Yeah, she can
I
wear his
support
bones on his
you.
other wrist, and
Yeah. I mean, he could be like, I really believe in you. I support you for who you are, and I'm going to help you out, and I'm going to help you save the world, and down you go. I'll be okay with that.
yeah, it's really hard to say what the end game is going to be here. So I'm going to try to stop guessing about that because I'm interested to see how the author does it.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of that first? I'm going to go back closer to the beginning of that first um, flight on the hummingbird into the fold.
It was fine.
Yeah, I
I
was
mean, was
really
there something
surprised.
particular that
Yeah,
you?
I was really surprised, first of all, that they took off. I mean, I got the impression that flying was an extremely unknown technology in this world. So I was like sort of just as gobsmacked as Alina was when they left the land. I thought it was really cool. And then I was so mad when they flew her into the fold without talking to her about it ahead of time, without, I thought that was really, really crappy. And I was really
Yeah,
mad on her behalf.
yeah. Like you shouldn't just. Yeah, that was really bold. That was very bold. I just think you just needed to get us from point A to point B, so that just had to happen.
It didn't though. They were
You don't think
testing
so?
out. Well, I don't have a good sense of the geography, but I felt like they wanted to go in and test out all of the guns and ammo, and that they were using her to be able to do that.
But we never, like, when it came down to it, they went back to the little castle or whatever, and they never really had to use that tech or use that situation again. So I don't know.
Yeah, so
I
was it
guess.
useful? I mean, I don't know. I was really mad on her behalf that they did that to her. It felt very manipulative, and that Nikolai was totally using her at that point.
Yeah. I think at some point his character kind of just changed. Wasn't that at the point where she had saw him differently too? Was it that?
She had kind of noticed the glamour or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
that had been quite a bit earlier. I think they were still on the ship where she was looking at his face and thinking it looked just wrong, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and then they kind of dropped that.
I think that maybe his character started out going one way and then he became a device to use in a different way. So, surprise, Sturmond or whatever his name is now Nikolai. I kind of was like, ah, I don't know. I would love to know if that was like the deal the whole time, or did it kind of just evolve to that because you needed someone else to do something else? I would love to know that, like, insider thing,
Yeah,
but
once he had stood up to the Darkling and told him, you can't do something that you want to do because it's my ship and I'm in charge. That made me not surprised when he turned out to be somebody else.
mm-hmm.
Because that's, I don't know. I enjoyed Nikolai's character both as Sturmhond and as Nikolai. Um, I want to see him get some sort of uh, good ending. I won't imply a romantic happily ever after, but a good ending. Bagra, or that's her name.
Yeah. Yeah, I want him to live. I don't want him to have an ending. I want him to make it out of the third book. That's what I want for him.
Yeah, and when I say ending, I mean, he's got a kingdom to run, and he's got somebody that's going, and it looks like it's going to be successful, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
there's somebody romantically that works for him, and maybe it's Alina, and maybe it's somebody else.
Yeah, because I think now I could be getting this completely wrong, but I know there's another series called Six of Crows, and I think it's in the same universe, but
Oh,
it's
really?
different people. Yeah, I think it's called the Grisha verse or something like that. I was just noticing it on Goodreads. So that makes me wonder, like, I did not look at any of the descriptions because I didn't want to spoil myself, right?
Right,
But
right.
if Nikolai makes it out and he ends up not being with Alina, maybe he is a part of this other story,
Yeah,
possibly.
yeah. Oh, that could be.
Yeah, anything's
And
possible. But I really, when I saw that, I'm like, oh, don't look, because you'll know something. So,
yeah. And there's a couple of, other countries in this world, right? So it could be something that was set with the shoe or something like that.
so let me ask you, what did you think about Genja's fate?
Wow, Genja made me really mad a couple of times. And I don't think we've seen the last of her. Um, but it does show the Darkling's cruelty. And I think that's what it's meant to show.
Well, I mean, heck, if he'll do that to his mother, he'll do anything to anybody else.
Right. I'm a little surprised she's still alive, I guess, would be
Yeah.
the first comment. Um, I suspect she'll have a role in the third book. She may even be somewhat restored to health or to something, but it's interesting that that's going to be, in a way, her first loyalty test to the Pilgrims, is to,
Yeah.
at near the end there, she tells, is it Tolia, to tell everybody that if she hears that word,
Oh,
the
yeah.
ruined is the translation, that she hears anybody calling her that will be the end of them.
She said, what did she say? Like, cut their tongue out or
Yep.
something. I'm
Yep.
like, whoa, girl, you.
Yeah, she went straight to it, boy. There was no screwing around there. She's gonna take over. I mean, the third book, she's going to rule the pilgrims and that army, and we have to assume that she's going to prevail, but it's going to be maybe without Nikolai, maybe without the all of the niceties of court, you know.
Mm-hmm.
She might have a ragtag group of surviving Grisha, but not too many. And I think we can assume that she'll, you know, win in the end, because that's how these good versus evil series go usually. So
Yeah.
that's my expectation of book 3. But she's going to, I think, lose a lot of her, whether you want to call it weakness or compassion or humanity or, you know,
tolerance for the BS. That's what she's going to lose.
Yeah, she's losing that. She's becoming more decisive, and she's becoming more willing to use the tools that she has for the greater good. And that's an interesting conundrum, or an interesting dilemma for a leader, you know, I think.
Yeah. Since we brought up the, you know, the new group here, I thought that was pretty interesting to find out that Tolia and Tamar really were in that church.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what I think about that. Like, when would that have happened? When would they have been radicalized, to use a...
The whole time. I think they were the whole time.
But they were Shu, weren't they? And then they were with Nikolai. When would they have even heard about her?
Oh, well, maybe it's... Well, I don't know. It was definitely before... I don't know. Good question.
Yeah, I was a little... I'm a little ambivalent about that. I could really hate it if I tried. Because it feels like a betrayal in a way.
Well, it definitely was. But, you know, we kind of got a little bit of foreshadowing that something was off when I guess he went to talk to her. I think was it Tolia?
Yeah.
Tolia?
Yeah.
He's the man, right?
I bookmarked
he went
that
and,
same scene.
Yeah.
Where...
Yep.
Go ahead.
Yeah, when he kind of like puts his, you know, he kind of kneels down and he waits for her to like touch him or something to be.
Yeah.
It was like, wow, okay, so he is really doing the most right now. Like, what is that?
Yeah,
that's what I thought when it happened. You know,
because that scene really resonated, and I think that the author meant it to, and it popped out at me too. I'm like, what's going on here? And then at the end, I was like, oh, well, that makes total sense.
Yeah. But I do believe, even though that they lied about being, what do they call themselves? Puritans? Is that what it was? Wait, what is it? What do they call themselves? I don't know.
I don't know. Cult members?
I don't know. Yeah. But even though they lied about that, I do believe that she can trust them, because at the end there, she did kind of say, well, who are you serving? Him? You know,
right.
Or me? Like, what is it? And I do believe she's probably going to put them through some more trials to figure out how trustworthy they are. But I mean, they came for her. They looked out for her. They saved her when she like got a little batty and just ran out.
Yeah.
Like in the middle of the night. Like, who does that? But you know, I do feel like ultimately they have her back.
I agree.
Even though they did lie.
I agree. And it's in their way, which is sort of a martial way versus a worshipful way, I guess. I don't know. But, I mean, I think they know she's a real person and not a goddess or whatever. And she's vulnerable. You know, one thing that does surprise me, though, is that if they had that direct line, I would have thought that the Apparat would have shown up someplace more effectively, you know, like in the chapel or somewhere, like where he would have had a chance to really talk to her and give her the message that he wanted to give her, which we still don't really know.
No, I mean, when he gave her that little message before he disappeared, that was creepy. I mean, the creep level was kind of high. Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
He's like, come with me. And she's like, I wouldn't go. No one would go with you, crazy. No.
Yeah, no. He reminds me a little bit of the Rasputin character from Russian Histories.
I don't know that character.
Okay, well, he's kind of like a crazy. He's always, yeah. So he's legendary, but he was real. He has a real biography, I guess, and he was around during the last days of the czars, and
Mm.
yeah, there's just all kinds of stories about, was he their assassin? Was he their defender? Was he a warlock? Was he immortal? Like they tried to kill him a number of times and he survived. And so there's a he's just got a lot of legends and myths around him, and that's who this guy reminds me of a little bit.
Yeah, I could see that. But it's interesting that they took them so far beneath the ground and that, it's referred to kind of as a tomb. I'm like, oh no. Like, it's a tomb. Like, get out of here. Like, are you crazy?
Yeah, like
No.
catacombs almost.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem possible to me that the Darkling doesn't know about those, or wouldn't be able to find them in there, right? Because the dark is kind of his realm, right?
Yeah.
So that seemed a little odd, unless she must have just damaged him a lot, right?
Yeah, where he's just going to leave them be for a while so he can get himself together kind of thing.
Right, or he's just not able to chase him down because of what she did to him. Maybe she drained him so much that all he can really do is try to recuperate. Although there is a comment near the end that he's back on the throne and doing his thing. Has a price out on her head, right?
Oh my gosh. He is the worst. Like, in some ways, I want to feel like maybe he's not that bad, but he is. He
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah, there's no ambiguity. I mean, I can understand the seduction that he is offering to her, about how they're both sort of these lone figures and that no one's going to understand her like he does. And he might be right about that, but it doesn't mean he's going to be a force for good in her life, So.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of, like, he is a bad guy. I mean, the way he treats people, the way he mutilates people and kills people, he's definitely a bad person, but he's that guy that is like, talking to you, trying to get you to do bad things along with him.
Yep.
Yeah, so he might understand you, but he's also, just like Mal's talking about, I don't like who you're becoming. She will become something else if she were to get on board with what he's talking about. He really wouldn't know her then.
Absolutely. And I think that's the crack in the relationship that the Darkling is trying to leverage, and Nikolai too, for that matter, right?
Yeah. I don't know why the author just, like, she wants us to believe that, like, Mal is like the light, I think, that's keeping her tethered and keeping her not turning evil. But I feel like that might be true a little bit, but just based on some of the things that's gone on in this book between them, she's tired of him. I mean, I feel like she is tired of him. And the only reason she was hanging on is because, that whole thing, the enemy that like,
Yeah.
she knows him. She knows what to expect with him. She knows she can trust him because she's known him forever, when there's not a lot of people she can trust now. It's not that she prefers him. I think that she just thinks that's what she has. So I don't know.
I don't think that's true. I think that she feels a connection with him because of the way they grew up, and that he was always her defender, and he has saved her on many occasions in these two books. And he has
saved her, and I think she does genuinely love him, but in that not grown up way. Yeah, like, like, that's my best friend who I could be in love with kind of way, but not in an adult, let's get serious kind of way, because he just, I don't know. And I mean, he doesn't care about her in that. Well, if he did, he wouldn't be such a loser, but I guess he is a loser like a guy. Because, I mean, he goes off and he's like getting drunk and he's fighting.
The Fight Club thing.
Yeah, Fight Club.
He's
kissing women.
I think that the author is doing like everything she can to create a class differential between Mal and Alina, and to try to make him seem like he's just a peasant and her seem like she's this goddess when they really came from the same roots, possibly the same village. So it looks like that village is going to play into the next book a little bit, and finding her roots. And I think that that will tie all that off. I think that going back to that village where they both came from, maybe going back to Karemsha, where they grew up, might play a role. But I think that that's all the part of the power structure commentary that the author is making. And you know, they make a point of how like he keeps wearing homespun peasant clothes even though he's part of this guard now, and like because she didn't want to be like the elites, and so everybody, which made no sense to me, right? So when she created her own personal guard, she just has him wear whatever with a little pin on it. Like, that's not how you do it. You know, it doesn't have to be over the top, but that's not how you do it. And it just...
You need a uniform.
Yeah, it just underscored. They mentioned, like, every time they talked about Mal being somewhere, doing some things, like, there he is in his homespun peasant clothes with the shiny pin on. And she's in this silken kefta. You know, I think that there's an intentional, on the part of the author, comment about a class situation there.
Yeah, and I think if that's the case, it's going to take something spectacular for them to work that out. Like, we've seen in so many different situations in books and stories where, you know, that class difference, even in real life, that's real. A lot of people can't overcome that unless you have something binding you together that's bigger than that. So maybe, like you said, if he is maybe part Grisha or little Grisha, or if he is the Firebird or represents the Firebird, I mean, there's got to be something bigger and more monumental that's going to hold that together, because otherwise I don't think that he's for her. I don't. You've got to make me feel like there's something going on bigger than that, because yeah, clearly you're not the same level, not anymore, but that can't be the only thing, you know?
I think that makes you a classist, Tamara. But,
shit.
What? But he's not overcoming it so far.
He's not overcoming it, and like,
for sure.
Look, not all men, but some men cannot stand for a woman to be better than them, to be worth more than them, or seen as worth more than them, more important than them, have more than them. That is a true thing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So he's not dealing with it well. I would totally agree with you there. Or the two of them are not dealing with it well. So, so it'll be. I'm looking forward to book 3 to see how all these things are resolved. But yeah, I think the 3 big things going on in this book are the well, I'm not sure why I said 3 and just coming up, but there was a couple of scenes that really stood out to me. You know, one was sort of the not revolution, but the sort of mutiny on the ship where they grabbed the monster and got rid of the Darkling, which was pretty impressive considering his power and their surprise, right? There was I don't know where I would put the second one. The scene in the fold really was surprising to me, and then, you know, the final battle scene. So I'm just trying to sort of skim that again, and yeah. So basically, while they're having this kiss, she's creating these shadow creatures, these horrible bats or whatever they are. And yeah, it was an interesting scene.
It was. I liked it. I think that was one of my favorite scenes was that showdown there and she
Me
almost
too.
killed him.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And then I was a little bit, maybe I was just reading it fast because it was exciting, you know. I tend to end up reading fast through that stuff. Um, but the way it ended was a little bit fuzzy to me. I guess it was kind of fuzzy to her too. So I felt like Mal, I don't know if I liked the fact that he interrupted, but I guess she would have died otherwise. So,
There he goes again.
yeah. Yeah.
I'm smarter. You should do what I
Was
do.
it
What are you
good or
doing?
not? Well,
I
I don't
don't know.
know.
I mean, obviously, she couldn't die, right? Because this is a trilogy, so we couldn't kill her. But I do wonder, would she have died? I mean, maybe she just would have absorbed all his power and then still been able to be brought back to life. You know, maybe she wouldn't have died, but he would have been dead. You know, the enemy
Yeah.
would have been dead. But we'll never know now. So,
It seemed like, you know, she says, I'm looking at it now, so finally, where it seems like it's hurting him more than it's hurting her, you know, that she's creating all these creatures. It says, blood's pouring from the Darkling's nose. The room seemed to rock, and I realized that I was convulsing, I was dying, bit by bit, with every monster that wrenched itself free. Just a little longer, I thought, just a few more, just enough so I know I've sent him to the next world before I follow. And then that's when Mal interrupted. Like, I kind of felt like it was hurting him more than it was hurting her, but um,
who, Mal?
no, the
Oh, the
Darkling,
Darkling.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But I mean, it was killing them both. But I don't know. Like, is that the way she's going to have to bring him down? That seems like the only thing that's really hurt him, you know, in these two books.
But now he should be a little afraid of her because he knows what she can do.
Yeah, I think it was in this scene where she realizes that he is afraid, and that's when she sort of did this whole power grab thing. So it, he'll be on guard next time, right? What is he going to do? I think he might.
He's not going to be so cocky about it. So,
No, I think he might just try to kill her.
yeah, he's either going to try to kill her or he'll think of trying to capture her and he'll try to like tie her down or something where she can't get to him like she could this time.
Yeah. I don't know. Book 3, I hope it delivers because there's a lot of threads here and a lot of interesting ways it could go, right? So,
yeah.
I thought that last scene, with the build up to it, where they're at the birthday party and finally the stupid prince makes his announcements like, "Hello, I have
that
ruined
was so
everything."
Crazy.
And
then Nikolai's like, wait, what?
You did
what? What are you talking about?
And
he's like, what area? What road? What?
You have killed us all. And then the bells start ringing. It was really a good climactic scene. Not every book gets a worthy scene like this, so that would be part of why I would rate it give it a high rating for this book.
Yeah, it definitely was fast paced. It was steady. I don't feel like there was a lot of wasted words. You know, I didn't feel like there was a whole lot of explaining of things in that way that kind of bogs you down, you know?
I would say the slowest part was while they're in the palace and they're sort of trying to build their army and train their ragtag Grisha. It felt a little slow to me there. And you're just kind of waiting for something bad to happen, which it does. So,
yeah, it does.
It didn't go on too long, but that's where all the angst with Mal was. That's where all the appearances, the ghostly appearances from the Darkling happen. I mean, that added some tension, but there wasn't a lot of plot stuff going on there.
No, they were, like we had mentioned earlier, I think they were the author was really just trying to really just show us how different they are, Mal and, Alina.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I could have did without him fighting. I could have done without him kissing that girl. I mean, that wasn't necessary. They still have the conflict regardless of
Yeah.
if he was doing that or not.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they're just driving home that there's a rift between them. So,
But I'm like, boy, do not look at me. Don't talk to me. You have so many points down right now. Just
yeah.
stay on your side of the room and don't talk to me. That's how this is going at the end of this book. Let me just sit here and plot by myself.
Yeah, I feel like the setup for I keep going to the third book. I'm really ready for the third book. I really want to read it. Just her whole.
You can start it tomorrow.
Okay, the way but the way she changed sort of in that at the ending of this book where she, you know, overdrew her power and she feels like she's hollowed out and she's with all these pilgrims and her hair is white and she's, um, you know, I just feel like she's gone through an amazing physical and I'm going to say mental transformation in this book that happened to a much lesser extent in the first book. You know, when they did the big scene where they killed off this town and she was manipulated into doing that by the Darkling. So that was similar, but this definitely upped the ante. It took more out of her, took more away from her, it cost her more. And we'll see what has to happen for her to regain her power and to triumph in the last book.
Yeah, I think it not only did it cost her a lot physically and mentally, like you said, but it cost her more as far as friendships
Yes.
and other things. Because now I think, she felt alone almost this whole book. Even though she had people, she kind of felt alone in that she could not talk to them. She could not share all the information. Like, all these people still don't know everything that she knows about the Darkling.
Right.
So she's held on to that. So I think now she's still going to feel alone unless something different happens. But because she has a different point of view on things, I think she's going to be more militant. And maybe she'll have some people listening to her and she'll be able to share more because she has a definitive goal, right?
Yeah.
I know it needs to happen, or I feel like I know it needs to happen. And I'm not guessing so much and we're just going to do. I feel like it's more doing and less guessing.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's hope. I think Genja is going to play a part in that. I'm very ambivalent about Genja. I feel like I, Alina missed her in this book. Even though she betrayed me, I'm like, she betrayed you. She's dead to you. Stop it.
Right? Like, stop mooning. Like, she's swooning over her like she was a girlfriend or something. Just stop.
Yeah, and she betrayed her multiple times. Not just once. And so I feel like that. I think it's clear that she's going to play a role in the next book, and maybe she's redeemed. I don't know, but I'm ready to see the end of Genja. But
yeah, I concur wholeheartedly. Like, bye.
Yeah,
get out of here.
I almost would rather see Zoya come up as some kind of confidant. Like, she's sort of proven herself in a way where she started out as a competitor and she, flexed her muscles a little bit. Then, that last kiss with Mal kind of wrecks it, so it's probably not going to go that direction.
Yeah,
but,
that's what I was thinking. I'm like, as long as she has her, claws in trying to get some of him, that's never going to be,
But I did think it could have been an interesting arc for her. Actually, if you compare the two, it would have been kind of cool, but I don't think that's where the author's going to go with it. But she's very powerful, and she could be an ally if you could get that arc down correctly. And maybe she ends up with Mal and Alina ends up with Nikolai. Who knows?
Maybe. I mean, I still feel like there's a possibility for them to be allies, but not confidants, probably. Like, as long as I need you to do something for me, we'll be aligned, but that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have I was, if you really squint hard, I could see an arc happening there, but I think the arc that I wanted was uh, killed off when she went in for that hug or kiss at the end of the fight. So I don't think it's going the way I was
Yeah.
hoping. So
No, that's dead. It's dead.
yeah, I mean, in some ways, this whole book is not passing the Bechdel test very well. She doesn't have other female allies that that are worth anything, except maybe Tamar. But Tamar doesn't have much page time. She's not a confidant. She's a guard who had secrets that,
Mm-hmm.
Alina didn't know about. So, not feeling it with Tamar.
Well, because of what happened with Genja, she already has kind of set herself up not to befriend anyone in that way, because she already knows, well, how far can I trust any of these people? They already, I can't trust
Right.
any of them, really. So it's going to be a hard and long road for her to find like a female friend like that she can count on. It's going to be a lot.
I just wish that the author hadn't done it that way, right? So Nadia was kind of weak and annoying, and Zoya is powerful and a bitch, and Tamar is kind of, how do I want to put this? She's a powerful woman and not what she seems to be, and there's not a single female, and Bagra is who she is, so there's not a single powerful female in here that that Alina can ally herself with, whereas there were men that she trusted, right? Fedor, and I just feel like it could have been done a little bit less. I would have liked to see a couple of women that she could at least not hate,
Mm-hmm. I agree. It's nice to have like at least one other, at least one.
Right.
But, I guess we didn't get that. Okay, so is there anything else you think we should cover before we rate the book?
I think that's it. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff in this book, but those are the bits that jump out at me for a series arc, I think.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a strong lead-in. I feel like either this final and third book is going to either just knock it out the park, or it's going to be like, what the heck happened? Like,
well, fingers crossed, right?
Yeah.
You always have to. So. You always wonder a little bit about the series finale. So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Nicola, what did you rate this book?
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 4. I really liked it, and I'm eager to see the next one.
Okay. Well, I teetered back and forth between a 3 and a 4, but I'm going to go with a 3.
Okay.
I really did like it overall, but there was just something I think that just was just okay with me about it. I mean, I liked it, but I just didn't love it. And I want more. And I'm hoping the third book will give me more. I didn't see any major plot holes with it or anything, so don't get me wrong there. I don't know. I just thought it was okay. It was okay. And the parts that we talked about were the best parts. We talked about all the best parts of this book, but it's just still was okay to me. And we have Casey's rating, and she gave it a 4 as well, but we don't know the reason. She didn't tell us why.
Right.
Yeah.
But I guess that sort of missing element to me is what normally tips it from a 4 to a 5, I think. If it were a 3, I would be kind of hesitant to read the third one. That's sort of where my scale is at.
And you know what? I didn't want to, and I feel like I'm also comparing it to another series, and I didn't want to do it, but I'm reading this other series alongside this, and that other series is so amazing that this pales next to it. And maybe that's why. And it's also another quote unquote young adult series. But I guess I can share it with you guys. I don't want to,
Yeah.
but it's the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas.
Oh, I've heard good things about that. I was actually
It's
reminded of,
amazing.
yeah, I read the short stories. There's an
Mm-hmm.
anthology because we talked about maybe doing that
Yeah.
that for the podcast, and there was a couple
Mm-hmm.
scenes when they were in the towns that really reminded me of some of those scenes.
Yeah. So I am on the fourth book out of six, I believe. And it's just so, I just can't wait to come back to that book. Every minute I'm like, what's going to happen now? What? And then when I had to stop that and get into this, it was almost, and I mentioned this phrase earlier, I kind of said childlike, in comparison, the heroines between the two books, definitely Alina is a lot more childlike in a lot of ways. And I think maybe if I had been reading something else and not that next to it, maybe I might have rated it a 4. But to me, that other one was just so amazeballs that this one was like, it was okay.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because the other series that I'm reading is an old urban fantasy series, The Weather Wardens by Rachel Kane,
Mm-hmm.
and it's interesting because the premise is there is also this class of people that can manipulate elements, so they're very similar to the Grisha, and some of them manipulate air and water, and some of them manipulate earth, and some of them manipulate fire. So they don't have the sort of people that can go in and do bodily, like the heart renders in this one, but that's kind of a combination of that's more the earth magic for the in the Weather Warden series. But it's interesting the comparisons because they both sort of manipulate air, but the Grisha do it in a much more macro way, right? They're bringing on wind, and in this last scene that I read in the Weather Wardens, the main character has been defending herself against some crazy guy, and she basically like creates this void of oxygen all around him. And that's not enough. She goes like into his body and starts dismantling the oxygen in his red blood cells. And I thought it was just
Oh,
kind of an
wow.
interesting compare and contrast between like sort of the blunt instrument and a scalpel kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of
Which do
cool.
you like better?
Well, they're so different, I'm digging the urban fantasy. There's pros and cons. Like I'm not loving everything about that other series. We can talk about that another time if you want.
Yeah.
It's almost like how on South Park Kenny gets killed in every episode. The main character in this series basically somehow dies and is resurrected in almost every book, and it's kind of like, oh, okay, that's a little, by book 7
Uh,
it's getting a little questionable, like how are you really going to do that?
so that kind of, it just gets old, kind of, a little bit.
Well, yeah, it's always, I don't know, it's interesting, and it's got gin in it, like genies, and
Okay.
it's all about um, it's about this class where we have Grisha in this series, they have Weather Wardens in that series, and um, in according to the world building in the Weather Wardens, the Earth is trying to kill us all, and the Weather Wardens are mitigating all of this, these natural disasters that are really wanting to wipe humanity off the face of the earth. So it's
Oh, yeah, that's kind of, that's a lot different. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's just the powers that were a little bit similar. So
Oh, cool. Okay,
yeah,
well, fun. So you guys have basically 2 recommendations from us, though, by accident.
by accident. Yeah, but I do think if you like this, I haven't read the whole Throne of Glass series. I read The Assassin's Blade, which is a collection of novellas, and
Hmm.
so that was a good way to get a taste for the world, and I did enjoy those.
Definitely. And if you do want to read this series, I definitely recommend starting with the novellas. It adds a whole nother layer to the actual full book when you get started. So definitely.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So up next month, we'll be talking about Ruin and Rising. And that is the third and final part of this trilogy. And so we shall see what happens to the group, or to Alina at least, and who survives, who makes it through.
Yeah. Will good triumph over evil?
Yeah, will they? I don't know. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, guys. So definitely hit us up on Twitter. Use that hashtag 3bloggers1series, or join the Facebook group. The links for all of that is below in the show notes. Feel free to join and talk with us about this series. We'd love to chat with you.
Tell us what we missed. Tell us where we're wrong.
Yeah, what's your favorite part? All that fun stuff.
What's your prediction for the Firebird?
Yeah.
But not a spoiler, just a prediction. Not a spoiler.
Predictions only. And I guess we're done here. Are we done, Nicola?
I think so, Tamara. This has been a great chat, and we're running long on time, I think. Just there's so much to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. So until next time, happy reading. Take care, everybody.
Yeah, bye.
If you enjoyed today's book chat episode and would like to show your support, there are a few things you can do. Head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a positive 5-star review. You can follow me on Twitter at Shelf Addiction. Most importantly, you can share this podcast with friends and family that enjoy all things bookish, including author interviews. Thank you for listening, and until next time, happy reading.